So welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get the numbers that I have in my spreadsheet here. These are the correct answers. So I would check each cell and make sure that you've got correct answers for each of these guys. And if you don't, if you don't, either try to figure out what went wrong or call me or Mistakers over and we'll take a look. So what we want to talk about now are really two concepts. So first of all, how much tax do we actually pay? So in other words, you've got all these different brackets and you've got all these different levels of taxes and you've got each individual tax at that level. Well, for the average person, they wouldn't pay these bills, separately. What they would do is you would add up all of these values to get your total tax liability. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set equals. We'll just sum all together these individual entries in the column. And so we get $186,988. And this would be the total tax that someone who has an income of $600,000 or taxable income of $600,000 would pay. So the question would then be, what a lot of people ask, and in fact, if you go to, have you ever heard these companies like H&R Block, and they'll do your taxes for you. They'll give you what's called the effective or the average tax rate. And this is what people will end up saying is, this is what I paid. I paid blah, blah, blah percent in taxes. They'll boil the number down to 1% rather than having all these marginal rates. Well, how would we do that? Well, this $186,000 is a portion of the $600,000. Well, what portion is it? Well, I can do the division. I can say, okay, I could take the tax divided by the total amount, and I get, and you may have to format this, but you get 31.16%. And so of my total $600,000 income, we paid 31% in taxes to the federal government. And just so you can see this kind of works, let's say I made $1 million. All these numbers update, so I tax a lot more, or have to put a lot more in that marginal rate bracket, the top marginal rate. I pay more in taxes, and my percentage went up because I put more money into that top bracket there. Okay? Now, there's a bit of a problem with the spreadsheet. So most of us are not going to make $1 million in a year. God bless you if you do. But most of us are not going to make that amount of money in a year. So what do we have to do? Well, let's put in $100,000, which is a reasonable amount that a lot of people, especially those who live in our area, make. If we take a look, in the marginal rate here, we got a negative number. We got negative $410,000, which makes sense because we did $100,000 minus $510,000. Now, of course, you can't be taxed on a negative amount of money. So in reality, what we want in this box is not to be taxed at any dollar amount for the 37% rate because we only made $100,000. So what we have to do is we're going to put a slight modification to our formula. If we get a negative in here, we just want this to come out to be 0. So there are a couple of ways. You could actually use an if formula for this, but I'm going to use a different formula. I'm going to use a max formula. The maximum this could be is either B14 minus G21, if that number is a positive number, or 0. So if I get a negative number, I don't want the computer to report back the negative $410,000. I want the computer to report back 0. And just to see how this works, if I come up here, I'll just type in a couple of these. Say the max of 2, 5, and 8. Well, that's 8. That's easy. The max of negative 4 and 7 is 7, of course. The max of negative 4 and 0 is 0 because 0 is higher than negative 4. So what a max formula does is it takes your data set and just spits out the highest value. And so we're using that here. And so if you notice, we get no money taxed in this bracket, no tax for this bracket, and we have $100,000 left over. Then, of course, the problem becomes in this cell right here, we still get a negative value. So we'll do the same thing, and we can modify this entire row, essentially, according to the same idea. We can put a max of whatever that value is in 0 and just carry that down. Just keep going and modify the formula. And in fact, if you want, you could actually scroll down at this point. Okay, and you can actually see these formulas didn't change because once I get down to the 24% mark here, once I get down to the 24% mark, I am in that bracket. So 24%, my boundary is $84,200. I've made a little bit more than that, and now I'm being taxed. And you can see the other guys stay the same, but we want to scroll down anyway in case we're, let's say we put $50,000 in here. We want a formula that works for any type of income. So now if we do that, we zero out the 24% bracket and we only start at the 22% bracket. And now our formula will work for any income amount that you could possibly have. Thanks, guys.